Congratulations! We have made it to lesson 32, the last chapter. And I find whenever I learn languages and you get to kind of like the last few chapters, it's hard to get the motivation to keep going. And especially in this chapter, this is just a bunch of hodgepodge random things that they decided to throw in here, and none of them are all that relevant. So hopefully that's encouraging that you can just go about, do your exercises and reading. We'll cover them real quickly here. So the first thing is proper names, just pointing out that often proper names have the article, which you've probably already seen this in exercises or readings that you've done. So, ho, Jesus, the Jesus, but you just translate it as Jesus. So many times proper names have the article. And then it points out that there are some names that have declensions, and sometimes they're declined in unusual ways. It's really no big deal. There are these are usually Hebrew names that are undeclined. That means they don't have a nominative, genitive, dative, accusative form. You'll have to know what case they are by context. Then it talks about some special uses of cases. I would not worry too much about these. They are important, but in terms of just reading the Greek, they're really not going to help you all that much. These become more important when you have to interpret the Greek. So, like the subjective versus objective genitive becomes really important when you're talking about the righteousness of God and the faith of Jesus. Is this faith in Jesus, or is this Jesus's faithfulness that we're talking about? That becomes a big debate. But in terms of reading, the main ones you need to be aware of are the times. So genitive of time. The genitive indicates the time within which, or the kind of time which an action occurs. So it gives an example here. I pray day and night for my children. So I am praying, and then you notice that of day and of night for my children. And then down here you have dative of time. The dative indicates the time at which the action of the verb occurred. So on this night, which makes sense for the dative. It has that to, with, in, or by. So you'll often translate as in this time, or at this time, on this night, on this day, things like that. And then the accusative of extent or measure, and this can be time as well. The accusative may denote the extent of time over which. So the women were worshiping in the temple the entire day. So this is telling you how long they worshipped. So those are probably the main ones that you need to know. The other ones I feel like are pretty intuitive and aren't going to affect how you read the Greek, but they do affect how you interpret. And so we'll talk about this, but that's kind of your next step. After you're done with Croy, and what you do next as you learn more grammar, it will be fleshing out the different uses of cases and their meanings and how to interpret them. Okay, we're on to 234, which is about the optative mood. This is the last mood, finally here at the end, and you'll know it's just a short, 2 paragraphs. It doesn't even give you any forms because they rarely show up in the New Testament. And really, it's only the forms of genoito, which means may it be, or AA, which means may be. And pretty much the optative is only used in prayers in the Bible. And when Paul says, should we sin that grace may abound, may genoito, may it never be. And those are the main things, main places where it's used. So that's why you don't really have to worry about the optative. It occurs more often in the Old Testament, in the Septuagint, in the prayers. It occurs a lot, or at least more, in classical Greek, but that's a different conversation. So if you're learning classical Greek, you'll have to learn the optative more. Okay, 235 talks about the article in various constructions, and here it's just pointing out that you can slap the article. So here, the, and you're looking for the noun, and it's not there. And so here, this is containing this whole phrase here, this prepositional phrase. The article is making it into a substantive thing. So in our village, people do not fear the king. So the article just kind of groups this together and makes it into a noun. So that's the use of the article. 236 talks about connectives and style, and this is just saying that in classical Greek, it was more of a hypotactic language. That means, versus paratactic. Paratactic is more easy. This is like, especially Hebrew, Old Testament Hebrew is like this, where it's just like, and Jacob got up, and he did this, and he did that, and then he said this, and that. It's just like sentence, 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 sentence connected by and. It's not very complex syntactically. Where hypotactic, you see this in Greek a lot more, where you can have a whole sentence be a paragraph long, stacking on participles. Jesus, seeing the crowd and wanting to have compassion on them, spoke to them, speaking many things and teaching them, or I don't know, you can just use participles to make a sentence very complex and have many moving parts. And so classical Greek did that more. New Testament Greek has become less complex, but it's probably more complex than English still. Okay. And then that's it. Brings you to the end. And so hopefully that will prepare you to do